Hey Bayek, it's me Ian, and in today's video I'm looking at this. This is Soldier Blue from 1970, and this was kindly sent to me by Del Boy, and I'm going to put his link in the description. Go over to his site. He's an excellent YouTuber. Really, he is fantastic. Wonderful blog. Fantastic. This is an amazing film. It's a new release, and it's been restored beautifully. It looks fantastic. So let's get into it. Now, it's 115 minutes long. Now, from what I gather, looking at the research, originally it was much longer than this, but they did various test screenings, and it was reduced to this 115 minutes long. So really, this is the test screenings. They just cut it. We don't know what happened with the footage. I've not seen anything about that, but that is what my understanding is about this. In fact, it was 135 minutes long on the test screenings. Maybe as well it was just seen as too long for the audience, and this often happens, and they made various cuts, as well as the controversial elements within this film. Now, Rotten Tomatoes give it 38%, which I think is more reflective of the time, because there was a lot of hostility, I feel, to this film. But don't forget, this is in an era where directors are beginning to push boundaries, and critics were not always so pleased. They were quite resistant in some cases, but there's this new wave kind of feeling coming on in terms of filmmaking, that they can push these boundaries into the mainstream as well. And this happens certainly in this country. But with censorship being eased in, then there was definitely a place for this. And it did well. It did very well. It did better than in America, in Europe as generally as well. And it's only the problems really come in the video age, because once we add video control certificates, then that is where the problems came in terms of release. This screenplay is by John Gay, who was involved in screenplays Run Silent, Run Deep, 1958, The Hallelujah Trail, 1965, No Way to Treat a Lady, 1968, and A Matter of Time, 1976. These were just some of the films. Experienced screenplay writer. It's based on Arrow in the Sun by Theodore V. Olson, which also was from 1970, the same year they based this on, the novel. It's directed by Ralph Nelson. Ralph Nelson films he was involved in as a director: Fate is the Hunter, 1964, Once a Thief, 1965, Flight of the Doves, 1971, which my good friend Del Boy has really raved over as a film. And there's the Wilby Conspiracy, 1975, which has a great cast, because it has Sidney Poitier and Michael Caine in this film from 1975. Also, I like it when they do a variety of genres. He was in director of Embryo 1976, which is a sci-fi horror. I love that. So he's a very good director in terms of experience. Excellent, and it shows, I think, in the film very much so. He handles the material really well, does such a good job. Now, this film is based on historical events. The Sand Creek Massacre of 1864, which was under the command of Colonel John Chivington. About 150 were killed, and 2/3 were women and children. This was all part of the Indian Wars, which were going on in that period. It's certainly a period of history now that is looked upon. And well, even after this happened, there was uproar about this massacre. It wasn't swept under the table. I think, people were very much aware of the significance of this, and it brought shame, definitely brought shame on everyone. So let's get into the cast. We've got Candice Bergen, who plays Cresta. I love her character. Her performance is so strong. Candice Bergman was in The Wonderful Sand Pebbles, 1966, which is a Robert Wise film. She was in The Majors, 1968. She was in The Adventurers, 1970, which I'm laughing because it's an Harold Robbins novel. And I remember when Harold Robbins novels were everywhere. There were these offering, sex and adventure kind of things. They did this in the 70s, and these massive books there were. So that she was in that film that they made. She was in Carnal Knowledge, which was a Mike Nichols film, 1971, which I know had Art Garfunkel, yes, of Simon Garfunkel fame in, because he did some acting, he was in that. And also The Wind and the Lion from 1975. That's a great epic film, absolutely wonderful film. And she's got a really good CV. Gandhi. She was in Gandhi, 1982. Wonderful. She was in Miss Congeniality, 2000. And then, recent years, Book Club, 2018. And Book Club, The Next Chapter, 2023. Then we've got Peter Strauss, who plays Honus Gant. Honus Grant. I love the name. He was in The Last Tycoon, 1976. He was in Nick of Time, 1995. Operation Finale, 2018. But really, the whole basis of all his work is TV. It's lots of TV series. What a career. TV films. And then we've got Donald Pleasence. It's not a big role, but it's Donald Pleasence, and I love Donald Pleasence. He plays Isaac, the name Q Cumber. What a name. He's in it, not that long, but he's there. Donald Pleasence, I'm not going to go through all the films because there's so many, and I love him. I always think he's wonderful films. The Halloween films, of course, which he did from 1978 right through to 1995. And just one film I just mentioned, which I love, is Argento's Phenomena, 1995. Wonderful film. He's in that. Then we've got John Anderson, who plays Colonel Everson. He was in The Satan Book, which is an interesting film, in 1965. And he was in Day of the Evil Gun, 1968. Again, it's a lot of TV series and TV films. So there is the cast. I should have mentioned the location filming, which is excellent. The locations that were all in Mexico. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Perfect. So, what is this film about? I've given you a hint when I mentioned it's based on historical events of the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864. In this film, while crossing the Cheyenne territory to Fort Reunion, these cavalry are attacked by Indians, and only 2 survive. And the first one is Honus Gant, who is a private, and then the woman who survives is, of course, Krista. Yes. And it's wonderful. That relationship between these two. Krista is, in fact, on her way to meet up with her fiancé because she's going to get married. But she is such a wonderful character. And his reaction is amazing because I don't think he's quite met anybody like her. That's what's wonderful. She just is not conventional at all. So basically, the story from that is those two, they've thrown together and they've got to reach the cavalry base camp. And on their way, they have various adventures, including meeting up with Donald Pleasant's character. And of course, when they get to the camp, the important sort of part of the build-up of the film, it is on the eve of the Cheyenne camp settlement attack, which is the climax of this. And what can you say about this? This film is brutal. This is what it's all building up to, and that's why this film has this reputation about this. I'd just like to say, I think the film, in context maybe of how we see things now, doesn't look as brutal, but for 1970 it was. But as I say, with the censorship wasn't the problem until we got into the video age. But it is effective, and there's what can I say? But it's just, it's at the time, people were shocked by it, and I can understand why. And certain scenes are not comfortable viewing, and certainly with today's sensibilities, we wouldn't even have them. And that, I think that's a fact. As a lot of the attitudes on this. I mean, it is seen as a very anti-war film, and I think that's true. But I don't go with all people say, oh, it's an analogy about because of the times about Vietnam War. It doesn't matter. No, that's not relevant. It is just an anti-war film showing the way the Indians were treated, which is still an important stain, I have to say that, on American history. They were not treated very well, and that is a fact. It's and those issues even continue today, right in American history. I think that is very true. The rights of Native Americans were severely curtailed, and like the black population, they've had to fight for their rights. So it is an important part of the history. And this film illustrates it so well. Um, I think it's a totally engaging film. And I mentioned it before, but Candice Bergen is outstanding as Cresta. She is this film's total focus for me. She is fantastic. I love her character. She's so unconventional at the time. She's a and also she's a female lead who's not in the stereotype view. We often get people saying, nowadays, what's all this about women getting these leads? It's all blah blah blah. They go on like that. Well, it's been part of history. This is a film from 1970 where we've got a very amazing female lead. What can I say? This film is fantastic, and it is a western, and I think that is very much put in that. We shouldn't put any other labels on it in that sense. It is without doubt a western, and I think it touched a lot of people. I've never seen this before. I've heard about this film, and I think it's a very important film. I think in the history of film, this is an important western. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, of course, but it's a story that is always worth telling. It really is. We should never forget history. No matter how unpleasant, history happens, and your emotions about this can't change that. This is history. This is how it is. And I know a lot of people get all upset about this, but that is the reality about history. It's happened. It's there. And no matter how you feel or emotions, it's there. And this is a story that was told. And I think for 1970, this is a wonderful film. It really is. I'm so thankful to have this. And it's a wonderful addition to my collection. I can't say any more than that, really. I'll just show, even though you've seen the original film, but here's this wonderful edition, which I did an unboxing of that Del Boy kindly sent me. This is great. I say this is a nice slip cover. It's got some prints inside. This is beautiful, absolutely wonderful, but an important film. I see this. I look at films in historical terms. This is an important film. And that's it. I've done. By heck, I've done. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and we'll let you know when I put out videos. Look in the playlist. You can see all the films that I've covered and TV series and a bit of music. It's all there. And if you've got any comments about this video, please put them down and give it a like. If you give this video a like, it gets it out onto YouTube and hopefully other people may enjoy this as well. And into algorithms and all that stuff, you know what it's like. And that's it. So all I've got to say is, I'll see thee again.